The Italian Radio Hour is sponsored by Istituto Mondo Italiano.
Mozilo matado, gatado el mundo. Mozilo body per amore mia.
Buonasera a tutti, good evening and welcome to the Italian Radio Hour. Io sono Viviana.
Io sono Caterina. We would like to welcome back all our regular listeners and also welcome back any new listeners and anyone listening online at khbradio.com. Also, be sure to like us on Instagram and Facebook at the Italian Radio Hour and subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch up on any past episodes.
E io vorrei dare il benvenuto ai nostri ascoltatori da tutto il mondo. Grazie per essere anche con noi. Per essere con noi anche oggi mentre continuiamo il nostro viaggio per l'Italia e la cultura italiana.
On last week's episode, we spoke with author Catherine Wilson. She's also an actor and frequent guest on Italian television programs as an expert on the American point of view. She's the author of The Mother-in-Law Cure, Learning to Live and Eat in an Italian Family. And we had a lively discussion with her about her relationship with her Neapolitan mother-in-law and her integration into an Italian and Neapolitan family. Our second guest was Laura Mangone, founder of the Italian wedding cookie table community, and we learned a bit about its history, the most popular cookies that you find on the typical Italian wedding cookie table, and all the wonderful community service projects in which this community of bakers contributes. But before we get to our guest tonight, let's find out the answer to last week's trivia question. Viviana, what is the meaning of essere alla frutta?
Cati, cosa ne pensi? What do you think?
Something about fruit.
Something about fruit. Something about fruit. So, has nothing to do with eating, on the other hand, but we know that we usually eat fruit at the very end of the meal. So when someone is alla frutta, it means they are really at the end of the rope, whether it's at the end of their energy or the end of possible solutions to a situation. And so that's when I say sono la frutta, means you're really at the end of it.
Well, tonight we have two very special guests who are going to be calling in from Italy. We have Silvia Gambi and Tommaso Santi. This husband and wife team are the creators of the documentary STRACCI. The documentary deals with the environmental impact of the fashion and textile industry and the recycling initiative of the city of Prato, which is found near Florence, and the recycling initiative that takes used clothing and produces new textiles.
Ma prima, pubblicità. Do you want to learn, improve, or master your Italian? Istituto Mondo Italiano can help. Located in the heart of Regent Square, Istituto Mondo Italiano offers more group classes and one-on-one private tutoring to help you learn Italian in no time. Visit us online at www.istitutomondoitaliano.org. I'm very excited to introduce the guest for tonight. It's going to be a very interesting conversation. It's going to give us something to think about. Silvia Gambi and Tommaso Santi are the writers and the director of the documentary film Stracci. Stracci can be translated with rags. Available for streaming also on Amazon Prime, this film tells of the sustainability of fashion through the eyes of those who recycle used clothes to transform textile waste into a new raw material. The film starts in the Tuscan city of Prato, near Florence, where the textile industry has been active since the 12th century, and travels around the world to tell the story of the environmental impact of the fashion industry and an extraordinary experience of a circular economy. Tommaso is an award-winning documentary director, and Silvia is a professional journalist who specializes in the field of sustainability in the fashion industry. Buonasera Silvia, buonasera Tommaso.
Buonasera Viviana. Buonasera.
Thank you very much for again joining us so late at night, and I believe you, Silvia, just returned from Copenhagen. So we really appreciate you both taking the time to be with us. In order to introduce, before we go into the conversation of your beautiful documentary, let's share with our audience a little bit about yourselves. So, Tommaso, you've been in the documentary industry for quite some time. You have also been awarded. I believe you have also talked about the coal mine acid explosion in Ribolla, Tuscany, and then there's definitely a different topic that you and Silvia are talking about in STRACCI. But if I'm correct, you getting close to the fashion industry and the sustainability, I should say, is something that you did about 15 years ago, right? Did you film something for a theatrical show with Valentina Banci and Francesco Borchi?
Yes, but you are talking about a play for the theater.
Mm-hmm,
and
exactly.
This is a play called Stracci. Maybe is the origin of this documentary, because for the play I shoot interview to hold worker in the rugs industry, and so. This happened in 15 years ago. This work was for research and for writing the play. The play was is fiction, but this interview now are right for this new use, because now the rugs industry is another things, has another importance in the world. So you are talking about a play for theater, mm-hmm. but is the seed that by whole start.
Mm-hmm.
Silvia, can you tell us a little bit about...
Stracci was a play for the theater, but the Stracci is also a documentary, and in this documentary, Tommaso used some of the interview that he made for preparing the play for the theater.
So il seme era là, so kind of planted the seed, so to speak, because you, Silvia, have been in the sustainability industry for many, many years.
Yes, can you tell us a little bit about your background? I understand you are a journalist. You've been writing on economics and fashion for quite a while. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, how you got interested in sustainability and fashion?
I worked for about 17 years in Chamber of Commerce of Prato, and in the public relations sector, and I organized for during my work many events all over the world to present the textile sector in Prato. And I was fascinated from this story with recycled fibers and the recycled wool, and so from 2010 I began with some project that was focalized in green economy. Until 10 years ago, the green economy was something about a new way to see our world, but when we talk about the green economy, we talk about environmental aspect and so on. Then this concept has become different now. When we use the word sustainability, we think about environmental aspect, social aspect, animal welfare, rights, and many other aspects. Mm-hmm. And I learn many of these things starting from Prato, with the experience of the recycling in Prato, and open my mind and my interest also in what was happening in many other countries. And in this documentary, I use all my knowledge and my network for tell this story.
So let's actually step back for a second, because it all starts in our daily life. For instance, we're going to an event tonight. 100%, the most popular question is, what am I going to wear tonight? So even though our closets are filled with clothes, we always have the feeling that we don't have enough. Maybe there is such a successful marketing campaigns that drive us to feel that we have to have the next item, the next piece of clothing. So we are in this cycle, and then, I guess I hear... yes, we hear a little beep. We might have lost them. Let's see if we can get them back. Otherwise, we will try our backup strategy.
Well, while we're trying to get back with them, just to inform our listeners a little bit, the fashion industry actually is responsible for an incredible amount of pollution. It's responsible for something like 92 million tons of solid waste per year, and it's one of the top 5 polluting industries after energy, transportation, and agriculture. And I think that's an important part of this whole...
Yes, but when we look at these numbers, we always feel that it's someone else's fault, is the big company's fault. And whereas we as consumers can, if we all took micro steps, we can already make a huge impact. So the nonchalance with which we continue to buy and we continue to pollute, because these closets filled with clothes, the quality of the garments is drastically decreasing. You go and touch linen now, it's not the same linen of 15, 20 years ago. And then we want to feel good about ourselves. We decide, let's donate these items. Okay.
Right.
And that's where we clear our conscience by this overbuying. Silvia and Tommaso, can you actually give us, and Kathy gave us some numbers right now. This is a misbelief, so to speak, that we're doing something well, right? And this is what the documentary captures really nicely across different countries. So we have obviously Prato, we have Ghana, we have Pakistan, and New York. Can you tell us a little bit what happens to a garment that gets discarded?
Usually when we we donate clothes, we think that we made a good action, and that these clothes will be destinated to someone that have really needs of these clothes. The reality is that in many cases these clothes is rubbish, because it's dirty, it's old, it's not in good condition, or we need to repair it, and for who collect it is not interesting. It's not interesting to repair it because have a price that is too high. This is the reason why in many cases these clothes are at the end of this clothes is the landfill. This landfill can be located in Europe, in USA, in the global north, or in many other cases. These clothes are ended their life in Africa. in Africa, there are some countries that are really interesting in the second-hand clothes because they built an economy, a poor economy on this type of activity. There are very little companies that buy the bale of stracci of rugs when they arrive with the boat, with this very big boat, and then they sell to the market these clothes. When at the end of the day these clothes are unsold, in many cases the end is the landfill. We have an interview with the OER Foundation and Liz Ricketts. This is a very important organization that works in Ghana, and in Ghana there is Cantamanto, there is the biggest place where all the clothes and so it's a very that you can see in the documentary are terrible because are in the sea, are under the sea, are in the street and are burned, and they release some chemicals. It is real. But in this terrible story of life of the clothes, there is a very little story that comes from Prato, and the story is different because in Prato are collected.
So your line is coming. You're coming in and out. Let me just. Yes, so I'm going to try this one thing. We have tried it before. So, Tommaso, if you can stand by your phone, let's see if we can put you through the call also in a different way. Okay, if you hear your phone ringing, we will try that.
Yes.
Okay, you can go ahead and pick it up.
Okay.
Hello.
Benissimo. Okay.
So maybe it's better if we can close the Skype, eh?
Yes, let's do that. Yeah. So
you have the echo otherwise.
yeah,
okay.
so you just
Okay.
just make sure that you're in a quiet place, that there is no background. Okay. So what you were saying, and I wanted to go back, Silvia. So these, and we're talking about tons and tons of clothes, and these piles make it to these other countries. And for instance, Ghana is a place that you have visited. And in the documentary, which I highly recommend everyone to watch, you see these women loading up these balle, which I don't even know right now, these huge on their shoulders, and walking miles and miles just to bring them to the market.
Yes. The fashion is an industry that in many cases live on the rights of the women. Women are always at the center of these bad stories in fashion. In this case, these women are paid some little money for going with the balls of clothes from. Oh dear, we have our cat that it's crazy.
That's quite fun.
He wants to go out and lo metti fuori.
Okay.
And so they work all the day working in Accra with these balls, and they have paid very little money, and they are the poorest part of this economy that is a very poor economy.
Yeah.
They wanted to create with these old clothes in Ghana with the Earth Foundation. They want to create a circular economy, and they are trying to realize some projects that are for using in a better way these clothes. But the reality is that now there are thousands of people that lives with this very poor economy made from made with STRACCI, made with rags, with rubbish.
You mentioned circular economy. Can you explain to our listeners, what does that mean? What is the concept of a circular economy?
The concept of circular economy is a way of production where one product at the end of its first life can be reused, recycled, repaired, and have many other lives. So from the beginning of the design phase, we have to project also the end of life of this product, and we need to find solution for recycle and reuse it. In Europe, this is a very important topic now, and we have many legislation, many funds, many initiatives that are going in this direction to help new businesses also to born from this concept. For example, reuse and also second-hand business, reuse business, repair, but also rent for the clothes are sustainable business models that now are very important for having a circular economy.
Mm-hmm. Silvia, but do you think now these markets in Africa are flooded with Western style fashion? And so that's what people are probably looking for. So how does that play out with the ability of an African fashion industry? Is there some sort of competition where locals don't want to have locals?
The problem in Africa is also that we have also a cultural colonization from the global north. There are some designers in Africa and also some companies that told me that they wanted to create a local industry based on fashion, but it's impossible because they have to compete with the second-hand market that every day put in the market many clothes that have a very low with a low price, so they can't compete. This is another aspect to keep into consideration when we talk about the used clothes that goes to Africa. In this way, we are. We are stopping every type of initiative of the local designer. And
so, and then another country that the documentary takes us to is Pakistan. And Pakistan, I believe, is an entrepreneur that actually gets into this line of business. And can you tell us a little bit about the story and the filming in Pakistan? And this is both for you, Silvia, and Tommaso.
Okay, Pakistan and India are two very important countries for the sorting and the selection of the clothes. For having a recycling process or a reuse process, we need to before we need to have a good sorting of the materials, a good selection of the materials. We need to select the materials. They use clothes that we can reuse in the second-hand market, and divided it from the clothes that are broken and we have to use for the recycling market. This type of activity is made from people, from hand of women and men, and it works every day to do this type of selection. We have some mechanical solution, but it's better if the sorting is made by the humans. And in these two countries, there are many companies that are involved in this type of activities. In Pakistan, in particular, we get in touch with Asnail Liliani, that is a young entrepreneur that works in this sector, and in his company, he makes the selection only of wool and cashmere, sweater in wool and cashmere, and as you can see from the documentary, and is also an important partner for Prato, because until 30 years ago, in Prato, we have also a very important sorting industry, and now we have not so many companies that make this type of sorting, and in many cases, this type of activity is made in Pakistan or in India. So it's very important the role of these countries in the recycling.
That's fascinating how other countries are doing this. But before we talk a little bit more about that, we need to take just a short commercial break. So if you'll just hold on just for a minute, we're going to have a short commercial break.
Applying for dual citizenship? Need documents translated? Istituto Mondo Italiano provides certified translation and interpretation services in 20 different languages. Be sure to visit us at www.istitutomondoitaliano.org. So we're back with Silvia Gambi and Tommaso Santi, writer and director of the documentary film STRACCI. So we have traveled to Ghana, we have talked about Pakistan and India, but we want to take this conversation home. Prato. So this documentary, un documentario a quattro mani, because this beautiful collaboration between the two of you, and both of you are from Prato, so you probably have the textile industry in your DNA, maybe something that you have taken for granted. So at what point did you decide or realize that maybe not everyone knew about this phenomenal industry in Prato?
Tommaso is my husband.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the first time that we made a project together, and it was very, very interesting for us to collaborate for this story in a documentary that is dedicated to our city. Okay, and Tommaso is. I think maybe the unique Pratese that doesn't have any connection with the textile, and I have my family have an history in textile, but here in Prato, textile is very important, and so it's normal to have it in the DNA. So I think that in our work we have the meeting between two different points of view on the district. I was very interesting to tell the story and talking about sustainable fashion with my research and with the data that I have found and so on. And Tommaso is a very important director, and he tells the story of Prato with beautiful images, colors. It's not so simple to give in a documentary the sense of an industry, to communicate what is an industry and what it means for a place, for the people that are involved in. I think that the most difficult things is to narrate the industry, and in our documentary there are many machines and process, and there are dirty places, and it's not so simple to tell this type of story and to do to the audience the sense of the story. But I think that we always, when people see our work, we can see that they are connected with this team, and maybe our type of narration is appreciated from the audience. This is the point. So
there is another question, because the very interesting aspect for me is that this work is really very important for Prato and for history of our city. But the really strange things is that outside Prato, nobody knows what happened.
Exactly. Yes, it's like Prato's best kept secret.
Yes, it's a secret. But when the people see in the cinema or in TV the documentary, they see an industrial process, but they see something like magic, because they see that the rubbish, the rags, can be transformed in new fiber, in new cloth, in new shirt. So this is very interesting, because we see something like magic. And I think this is the strong point of this documentary.
And also because you were able to bring everyone into the documentary, from the Cenciaioli, from the ones doing the work. So everyone has their perspective and their contribution to the process. And again, the colors and the images do make it very captivating. I remember when I was watching it, and because thanks to the Italian Film Festival USA, your documentary was selected and shown this year to the US audience, and I wrote notes and I said I have to know more about it. It was just a compelling story. Being from Rome, we grew up here about the Cenciaioli, Prato, but I've never seen it, and the next time I come back home, which is probably in a couple of weeks, I would love to maybe go and visit to see the process, because you managed to capture that beautifully. But for those of our listeners,
you are welcome, Viviana.
Okay, I will take your word. So for those listeners that might not really be familiar with this reality, so let's assume these garments, and we're talking about piles and piles and piles of garments. Tell us a little bit about what we call the Cenciaioli, what the experts, so to speak, and in Prato they have experience that goes, probably from generation to generation. What happens to that garment? Tell us a little bit, and also how do they create shades? And it's really fascinating.
Yeah, I think that, like Tommaso told you, it's something of magic, and in some cases there are families where this work is made from 60, 70 years. In Covistra, for example, for 100 of years, they are the 5th generation. So it's a very important experience in this sector. Cenciaioli are the the ability to select by fibers the used clothes, and in the documentary you can see something of the way that they use to understand if they have acrylic on wool or cotton, and but they can do it with their eyes and with their hands, and then they can also select all this type of color, and the selection of the shade is very important because the recycling in process in Prato is very interesting for two aspects. The first aspect is that you have a type of recycling that comes from clothes to clothes, from fibers to fibers, and this is the very important type of recycling that we want to earn also with all the other fibers. We do this with the wool, but we hope that in the future we can have this type of results also with the other fibers. The second interesting aspect is that thanks to the selection of the shades, we don't need to dye the fiber. So we can save water, and we don't use chemicals, we don't use and it's very less impactful, this type of production. And with the selection of all this shade, for example, we can have 5 different shade of red, 5 different shade of blue, and so on. They can mix all this color and to create the color that the designer wants for the collection. But every single color that they made, every single yarn that they create is made with an artisanal approach, because when you recycle a fiber, not all the fiber are the same. There are some differences, and so it's very. You need to have a very big experience to mix it and to guarantee a very good quality of the materials. So I think that it's really something of magic. And in any other part of the world, they can do this. I know that there are some countries where they try to copy what we do in Prato, but they can't, because the knowledge of the people that make these works and the knowledge of the sector and the fibers is fundamental to create this special mix.
Indeed, it does take a lot of experience. Now, obviously, as consumers, when we look at labels, again, it might make us feel good when it says recycled or sometimes recyclable, and I don't know whether it's misleading or not. But can you tell us a little more, Silvia, about the Cardato brand certification?
Mm-hmm. Allora, when I was in the Chamber of Commerce on Prato, I created the Cardato Recycle label for our local production, and the certification was based on the production made in textile district. But we are Prato is a very little place, and so we don't have we are not so strong to impose our certification on the market. Now there is an international certification about recycling that is called the Global Recycling Standard, and it regards not only the wool but all the fibers that are recycled on the market. And that is released from Textile Exchange, that is an American organization. And now all our companies are certificated with Textile Exchange and GRS. But the other important aspect, Viviana, about also the storytelling of our documentary is that we choose to insert the interview of many entrepreneurs and many people, because we want to communicate that in Prato there isn't only a company that makes this work, but we have about 2,000 of companies that works in the textile district, and we are a district, so we have many small companies that works together. Every company is specialized in a particular step of the production, and all together they can do this magic thing from old clothes to new clothes. I think that it is something very unique. 2 years ago, National Geographic dedicated the cover of the number dedicated to the Earth Day to the experience of Prato in circular economy, because it's something that is really unique.
So it appears now with this initiative that is really taken off in Prato with this recycling of raw materials. It appears that there are opportunities for many new jobs within the industry. Is that true? New opportunities, new initiatives.
Yes. We have. This new interest for the recycling, because here in Prato recycling for 150 years, but in the last 5 years in particular we have a very big interest on the recycle, and this is creating new jobs, but we have a very big problem on the to insert a new generation inside this job, because for many years we talked to the young people that textile was a traditional sector, and that it's industry. You can do something of shiny. It's better to be a designer than to work in a place where you produce yarn and so on. And so for us now it's very hard to insert new generation inside the companies. But I think that now with the opportunity of the circular economy, with the opportunity of the recycling and so on, textile is a very exciting sector, and I think that for the young people it's could be very interesting, and they can find very interesting challenge to face.
I have a question for Tommaso. Did you have any particular challenges in the making of this documentary?
But the big challenge is COVID, because you see,
yeah.
As you know, in the documentary we have image from Prato, but we have image from New York City, from Ghana, from Pakistan, from Isle of Wight in England. And this is a challenge, because this was a challenge, because we can go in this place. We can go in this place, so we direct a little troop in this place from remote, from Italy.
Like the production team, you were giving directions to the production team remotely.
Yeah,
that's very challenging.
Yes, it was very interesting, and it's very fascinating, but it's very difficult, because we had to direct the interview, the type of image from abroad. Mm-hmm. So it's very strange, but at the end we have a good work from
excellent
our,
work. Not good work.
Yeah.
Excellent work.
Thank you.
Can you tell us, and maybe this is for both of you, what you're currently working on? Or if this, or if this is going to be, if you guys are going to stop for a little bit, maybe during the summer break, or you're already working on a new project? Or is top secret?
Last year during the summer break we prepare STRACCI. So during all in August, in July.
So now it's vacation time.
We was working hard on STRACCI. So no, we have some very interesting project, but not together.
Yes, I'm working. I'm also screenwriter, so I'm working. To some new screenplay for cinema, and I'm working to a new doc that I think will be very interesting also for American people, because I'm working in Florence. We are talking about another field, because there is a question. I work for documentary in fine art and restoring, and I do this new documentary about the restoring and the story of San Giovanni, the baptistry of Florence. I think this will be really wonderful work about a wonderful place in Florence. So this is my new big job.
Oh, that's exciting.
In bocca al lupo.
Yeah, definitely. Silvia, I understand you have a blog and a podcast. It's called Solo Modo Sostenibile. Can you tell us a little bit about this podcast and who's your focus audience, what topics you discuss?
Yes. Solo Moda Sostenibile is my platform, and I have a podcast, online magazine, and a wiki newsletter that are created from me. In particular, my podcast is dedicated to sustainable fashion. In every episode, I'm focused on a particular topic, and then I have an interview with related to the thing that I want, that I talk in the podcast, in the episode. And for me, it was very interesting to go in Copenhagen for the Global Fashion Forum, because I got in touch with many people of this sector, and I have very interesting new interview for my audience, and I hope in the upcoming weeks to edit this interview. And then I'm also writing a book about the ecofeminism, and I'm very thrilled for this new work.
Okay, so siamo quasi in chiusura. So for you, I'll give you 3 different categories, and you tell me, what are some good thoughts that we should have. So governments, what should they do? What are your expectations? And just briefly.
Okay, in Europe now we have a very important moment, like in USA, for the new regulation. And so we hope that also in Europe and in Italy we'll have a new legislation about sustainable fashion and used clothes and recycling process.
Okay, for the brands and the designers.
And they need to learn to project in a better way their collection, and to apply the eco-design principles.
And then the last one, we consumers.
Consumers need to to fall in love
again with the Sunday dress, right?
And to love it and to maintain it, to take care of their clothes and so on, and stop buying all these clothes. We can live with less clothes but of better quality.
And maybe encourage consumers to go to vintage shops to buy used clothing. That's a very popular thing now with young people.
Yes, but just kind of put a little stop per questo consumo sfrenetico,
Yes.
this frantic buying. Okay, Silvia, Tommaso, this has been a true pleasure. I really appreciate you staying up late for us, and I hope that I will have the ability to shake your hands in person at some point during the summer.
Well, unfortunately...
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Buonanotte.
Buonanotte.
Bye-bye.
Well, unfortunately, our hour is almost up.
And yes, the Big Ben ha detto stop.
It's time for us to say arrivederci e alla prossima. We want to thank you all for tuning into the program. If you have any questions or comments, please contact us at the Italian Radio Hour at gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. And Viviana, who will be our new guests next week?
Well, next week is going to be some sort of a historical duet. We have Melissa Marinaro from the Pittsburgh Heinz History Center and Mariana Gatto from the Italian American Museum in Los Angeles, and we're going to talk about their individual collections and maybe similarities and differences between the Italian immigration on the East Coast and on the West Coast.
Well, that should be a very interesting discussion. I just want to remind everyone that if you or any of your family or friends have missed a prior episode, or you would like to listen to this episode again, please visit our website at www.istitutomondoitaliano.org and click on the Italian Radio Hour tab.
Vorremmo ringraziare i nostri ospiti Silvia Gambi e Tommaso Santi, il nostro sponsor Istituto Mondo Italiano e alla Boara per la musica. And finally, before we leave, you know that there is always a language trivia, and here is the expression of the week. What does tutto fa brodo mean? And again, what does tutto fa brodo mean? You can send in your answers to the Italian Radio Hour at gmail.com.
And just a reminder, if you are not living in the Pittsburgh area or you might be out of town, remember you can catch us streaming live at khbradio.com every Thursday at 5 p.m. And be sure to like us on Instagram and Facebook at the Italian Radio Hour. Until next time, alla prossima. Ciao, ciao.
Staccino garofula dormo e culirami con voglia la via
The Italian Radio Hour has been sponsored by Istituto Mondo Italiano.